Hey guys, what it is yo girl Cadillac. There's some Cadillac Dixon. I'm the drama like prison wife. I'm the legally blind artist that is rapping and painting for justice, hoping, because you got to hold your breath for justice, to see justice before all face too bleak. Yes, hiss yeah girl Cadillac. Anyways, I'm coming through. It's 11:52. Girl, that ride, I wasn't even trying. But 11:52 on October the 4th, 2025, almost October the 5th. Girl, by the time I get home, we can't be long too, because by the time I get home, and that rhymed too, and I wasn't even trying. But I'm not gonna have no time to sleep. So this is where you calculate. Tonight is the night before Vizzo, right? And all through the house, the prison wife was scurrying to get ready to see her spouse. But my goal is it's 12 almost. It's going to take me about 30 minutes to get home. So it'll be about 12:30. No, it's going to be later because I'm recording a video. And I'll be long-winded, girl. So let's give that to 1 o'clock. So when I hit that door, I'm going to have to find something that's Vizzo approved, like for real, because I got to get around the metal detectors. Shout out to Miss Remy Ma. So my plan is to get on the road by 7. I know my plans don't never go straight. So maybe by 8. Why am I rhyming so much? We might as well make this a little musical, girl. So by 8 a.m., I want to get on the road. And I got to get gas, and we need to have something to eat before we get up there, because we don't want to blow everything on them vending machines, because that is overpriced. And I literally just really want to let him and the grandkids eat. I want to be full, so all I need is like a little snack. Possibly, may not even need that. Girl, let me stop rhyming, girl. But our daughter Money, she definitely gonna want something. She remind me of, you remember Barbershop? When the guy Ice Cube had did something, and he was like, you can have that, take that, that's for you. He was like, what, something free? What else can I have free? But yeah, so the kids and the grands and him. So I'll set out the eating session. So we got to have breakfast in the morning and all of that. But anyways, let me get to the story. Oh, wait. So hold on. If I go to sleep by 2, then I get up at 6. Oh my gosh. That means I only got 4 hours. I'm going to be pushing it. I'm gonna be going to bed, girl. My other option is to get in the house and go straight to sleep. And if I get in the house, go straight to sleep, I get home by 1, right? Get home by 1. Sleep till 5. Let's see, how long is that? 4. That's still 4 hours. But if I sleep till 5, well, I'll set my first alarm to 5, and then I'll snooze probably until 6. And so if I get up at 6, girl, and get all my stuff together, maybe we still can get out by 8. So I don't know. But I can't be late, girl. I definitely don't want to drive that far and get caught in count. But anyways, so let's get this going. I'm sorry, y'all. I almost want to start a new video, but girl, I ain't got time for that. But anyways, I want to get back to the video that I was basically answering a comment from a viewer that basically just came to antagonize me, honestly. But that is what I go through as an advocate for, one, criminal justice reform, prison reform, and for wrongful convictions. I'm an advocate for all of these things because all of these aspects that are not working properly have immensely affected my life and my family's life. Reform is actually way past due. So when I advocate, I'm reaching for a target audience of open-minded people, or maybe people that already know this system and understand, and it's kind of already touched their home, so they get it. Because a lot of times, like in yesterday, the narcissistic system, it wears a mask of keeping us safe. So if you've never seen the system with its mask off, you would never believe what I'm telling you about it. But I've seen that monster behind the mask. And many other people have. And I'm looking for those people. But anytime I cast my net out, I grab the throwaways. You know, that's how you do. When you're fishing, you trying to catch this type of catch and you're catching something else over there, girl. But that's what it feels like. But I have caught some diamonds, some people that thank y'all for watching, supporting me. Y'all know what's up. Y'all are very much like-minded, and I thank you for being here. And this is who I do it for, those that are willing to listen, to understand, and to hopefully help make change. But it's just we're outnumbered. We're really outnumbered. That is why we can't get the change and the reform that we need, because most people are fooled. They just are. It's hard to do anybody with someone whose mind is made up, right? And they're very non-flexible. Like I did a lot of study, just like I study justice. I also study narcissistic relationships and things like that, because they kind of go hand in hand. But a non-flexible personality is the type of personality that can't really adapt to change, right? They have to have things the way that they are. And we have a society that's kind of non-flexible. They want to stay with the same broken systems, broken is not even a word for it. You need a word that's broken to the exponent of whatever highest exponent you can. A real, like, horrible word. Way past broken. If y'all got any suggestions, put it in the comment section of what can describe how broken this darn system is, because it's more than broken. But it was designed to be broken. I've never seen you design something to actually be broken, but this was and it's so, when I think about how genius they had to be to make this thing that is so completely broken, and it works so completely opposite of how it's supposed to work, but it still has majority fooled that it still works the way it was supposed to work when it doesn't. So I don't know. It was just so, how did these people have this much intellect to build something like this, like so long ago? Because it has allegedly oppressed us for centuries. It's oppressed us for a long time. And it still does. And it seems as though there's going to be no date soon that it's going to, be corrected, right? So I'm going to read the statement that I had in the part 2. And then I was supposed to give you my testimony of it, basically, like my experience in this matter. Okay. So this is from the video, I debunk, and this was the comment left. Of course, BLK people lead in wrongful convictions because they commit most of the crimes. I actually wish I could link this one video that I seen on TikTok, and it was a guy, YT guy. I'm saying the letter Y and T because we can't say the demographic online. So that's why I'm saying that. But he himself is telling other YT people, and I found a few of them. I'm going to put them together and review them, where they are telling their own people that it's broken. It's happening. Wake up. Wrongful convictions, because wrongful conviction day just passed. And I thank you for advocating. And it's not that, like I heard said, that it's not that we can't advocate for ourselves, but when you do advocate for yourself, you're gaslit to feel like you're just being a victim. I'm in no ways. I am a victim. My family is a victim of this system. I am a victim, allegedly. But I don't have the victim mentality. I am fighting. I am up fighting for our lives. So because you're fighting for your life, they reduce you down to just plain victim. But when someone else comes and advocates for the victim, many times, and the person is not of my descent, many times people actually open up their ears and listen. That's just how it is. But if I got some time after Visitor tomorrow, maybe I can review those 2 videos. They're really good. But I don't think you can link TikTok videos over on YouTube. So anyway, back to the statement. The statement is not true. But that's the observation that a multitude of people take on because they're being deceived because they don't know the full story. Okay, so I keep saying the table. He's also, he or she also goes on to say, I keep saying the tables turn as if all COPS are YT. And that is not at all. I never said that, never even inferred that. Like, it really doesn't matter the demographic of the officer, to be honest with you. And that's what my testimony is going to be about. It does not matter because officer from 3 different demographics, including my own demographic, is the reason my husband's wrongfully incarcerated. So it's not about the officer being YT. That makes no sense. Hold on, y'all. I'm trying to get this. Okay, I switch hands. I'm trying to hold my notebook so I can read, and I'm trying to hold my phone, girl. Okay, so I keep saying the tables have turned as if all COPS are YT. And then I say what is true is that when a COP of any demographic, including BLK demographic, they are either already aligned with those perpetuated stereotypes, allegedly, or they go along with it in order to maintain employment. So it's not actually the individual COP itself, it's the system of COPSs as a whole that upholds the systematic oppression, allegedly, of our community. The system is a program, and any program does what it's programmed to do. And if any one COP goes against the program, allegedly, they are let go, fired, or they just fold into the pressure to go along with the flow. And I need to also add, many times they just quit, they leave because they cannot do what they're expected to do. I did see, it was a YT guy. He said he's been a COP in Florida for a certain amount of time and he had to leave. He could not do what they were telling him to do. And then when he would let people go, they would jump on him. Basically, the higher ups would be like, wait, why didn't you try to charge him with something? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't? And it's almost like they're forced to, adhere to the things that we're seeing that they're doing. So those that do go out and do those things, most likely they're praised allegedly for doing those things. And the ones that report, I've heard those stories too, when they report those injustices, including with COs, when they're reporting and they're actually trying to do the right thing, a lot of times they themselves get backlash. So rather than get backlash, they fall in line, they quit, they get fired, or they're actually just loving doing it. And this is just, they love it. You got those too. Okay. If any one COP goes against the program, allegedly they are let go, fired, or just fold into the pressure to just go with the flow. This is also true statement with correctional officers, allegedly. Okay, so now that I read that, I am going to go into the demographic of the 3 officers that are basically the biggest part of the reason why my husband's wrongfully incarcerated. But it is like an assembly line. So I tell you each stage of how my husband was done wrong and unjustly. So wrongful convictions start with wrongful arrest. So that's the beginning stage when they're like basically starting that police report, and that's initiating the whole process. Okay, so what's supposed to come through is the officer is supposed to write the report, and then they're both basically supposed to see if there is really any merit to these charges. Should they even be taking these to trial, or should they just drop it in? Because every single case that the officer brings is not supposed to be tried. They're supposed to see, is this even plausible? Is this even a thing? Like, is there any evidence? Is there any way that we could press this against the person? So at that stage, the prosecutor and all of that, they're supposed to be, a prosecutor's job is not to just seek conviction. There is supposed, well, because it's the direct opposite, allegedly, that is their job. But what their job is supposed to be, allegedly, is just to find the truth. If they find the truth that the person is innocent, they are supposed to be, dropping the charges on them. But many times, zealous prosecutors move forward with charges, and then it gets botched all the way up. So it was botched there, and then the judge, it went all the way up to the judge, where the judge put the icing on the cake and wrongfully sentenced. He sentenced my husband wrongfully against the points. His points don't even add up to 40 freaking goddamn years. He over sentenced him. And that's one aspect that I say that people kind of always just miss. If my husband indeed was guilty of the crime they're alleging that he did, the highest, you can't just give people time that you feel like giving them. There are rules already set forward. You're supposed to sentence him to you're supposed to sentence him per the guidelines. And they highly exceeded the guidelines. But still, they won't even correct that, because even if, let's say, you corrected his sentence, he still would come home. He served more time than he was supposed to, even if he did the crime. Even if he did the crime, he was only supposed to do 10 years. So even if he were guilty of the crime, he's still wrongfully convicted because you convicted him incorrectly. But he's not guilty of the crime. But I would rather them, if you're going to convict him wrongfully, I would rather you do it per the time that he was supposed to be, sentenced, if you can understand what I'm trying to say. So anyways, the demographic in my husband's wrongful conviction case is a YT male, a BLK female, and a Hispanic male. Okay. So the scenario is that my husband got a ride with his cousin. The demographic of the passengers in the car is Marcello's cousin is YT. He's BLK, but his skin is YT. In his previous prison stays, he was booked under being a BLK male. And they kept saying two BLK males, so they spun it to the jury that it's two BLK males against two YT males. But in all actuality, the last booking of his cousin, he decided to change from being booked under BLK male to being booked under YT male. So his last incarceration, he was booked under YT because he can pass for any demographic he chooses. He's racially ambiguous. I literally wouldn't even, if I seen him, I would never think he was BLK ever in life. He has to tell you he's a BLK male. So he's now going by YT. So the driver, Marcello's cousin, is YT. Marcello was picked up in a 2-door car vehicle, and Marcello is BLK. His YT cousin had two YT males in the back seat. And Marcello was walking on foot. Marcello's cousin pulls up and said, "Hey man, you want to ride?" He says, "Sure. I'll be right. I'm going right down the street." Now, the reason that the two YT guys were in the back seat is because this was downtown Orlando. There was a famous club that is no longer a thing now, right? But there was a famous club that sat on the main street. Marcello is one little street over at the 7-Eleven. So if the club is here, Marcello's over here, a street over. I'm sorry. If the club is here, yeah, Marcello's a street over. Yeah, I had that right. But looking at the thing is showing me different. Now, from the street, from the club to the 7-Eleven connects at a point like right there. So Marcello's really coming from this way. And the cousin comes from the club, makes a turn and comes up that way and sees Marcello. Marcello's going home back down that way. So he picks Marcello up this way, but he rolled the stop sign because he didn't stop completely. That alerted the officers. But he had to come from that way to get Marcello, picked him up, went that way, went back that way to go drop him off. So you see how the club connects in an angle. Marcello's on the corner here. You come down here and then you go back. Oh gosh, that's not making sense. You come back and there's the club over here. So it's diagonal, but you have to go around the block to get there. Right? So the two YT males were at the club and they wanted to get right before a famous dance. This dance brought people from all over. This is a famous club, but right outside the club is the hood. It's the hood. And they had several of the patronizers of that club attacked. So it wasn't safe for the two guys that were actually in a relationship. It was not safe for them to be going into the hood to get right. That is why he was in the vehicle with the cousin, the driver, the YT cousin driver. So whatever the cousin and the two guys had going on was already happening before Marcello entered the vehicle, because Marcello was picked up from walking down to the 7-Eleven, and he planned on getting some snacks and walking back home to his female cousin's house, where he would crash at. He would either crash there or he would be at his grandmother's house. We were in the process of finding, our footing and trying to get an apartment together, but it just wasn't really working. So they are already together. The 3 YT guys are together. The plan was that the cousin was going to take the 2 from the club to go get right and drop them back off at the club. In the midst of it, before they made it anywhere, Marcello's walking. He gets in the car. His cousin pulled so close to the stop sign that he actually rolled the stop sign. So as soon as Marcello gets in the car, a cop car coming from the opposite direction, he's heading to drop Marcello home. The officer comes from this direction because they surveilled that neighborhood because it is crime-ridden. They surveilled that neighborhood and they seen the car roll the stop sign. So Marcello just got in the car. Can you imagine just getting foot in a car and then whoop, 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 whoop. You like the jail? And then the prosecutor kept saying, well, why wasn't anybody talking? Because he was like, they wanted to know what was the conversation in the car. How could Marcello not know what was going on? But the reason why there was no conversation, because it was just instantly. It was instantly. I even show you, I went back to the scene of the crime and I showed you how small it is. How there could be no time for conversation. I don't even know if Marcello would have had time to put on his seatbelt before the officers got behind the car. So Marcello is expecting his cousin's going to pull over. His cousin does not pull over. He speeds off into a high-speed chase. It's a small block, but he goes around the block, comes back up, and then he drops the car in a dead-end cul-de-sac. I even show you this cul-de-sac in a different video. I can link it. You know how I'm bad about my links, but I can link it so that you can see this cul-de-sac. It's so small, right? So he stops the car in a dead-end cul-de-sac. The door flings open. It's a 2-door car. So the 2 in the back, the 2 guys that are trying to go get right, they're like, what the heck? We were just trying to get right before this thing. And this dude, he driving off and evading police. Now, what do we do? You know what I'm saying? I'm not excusing what they were in the car for. I'm not excusing that. But there's a whole big difference in what they charged him with than what was actually taking place in that vehicle. And Marcello was not even aware of what was happening in the vehicle. But I've heard many people say, even Rajiva the ruler was saying, anytime you get in a car with somebody, just be careful about whoever you get in the car with. Because no matter what, even if they had a pow-pow in the car, if they had D-rugs like Taylor House Publishing say, they will put it on you too. Even if you are completely don't even know that it's happening, you're going down. And that's kind of how Marcello got caught up, like literally the wrong place at the wrong time. Like if their paths never crossed that night, Marcello most likely wouldn't be in there for life, girl. So the two guys, they're nervous because they're actually on their way to get right, and this happened, and they're like, okay, so we don't want to be caught up in this. And it's a two-door car, so they couldn't jump out and run like that cousin did. That cousin ran. And I always ask Marcello, I'm like, if your cousin ran and got away, but I find out later that was a lie. His cousin did not get away. He was caught. But they're gonna, because they can't quite tell the truth in the story, because if they ever tell the truth in any part of the story, it will reflect to Marcello being innocent, right? So they have to maintain the lie. And when you tell a lie, you got to cover the other lie with another lie and another lie. And you might cover your lies, but your person that is working with you may not know the lie that you told to cover for that lie, right? So the car is stopped. Marcello gets out, and he gets out the car, and he has a BLK officer, lady officer, holding her pow on him. She says, "Come towards me and get on the ground." So he walks up to her, and he's trying to say, look, I don't know what happened. I just got in the car with my cousin, and basically nobody was trying to hear what he was saying. So he sits on the ground. Now, they lied and said that he ran. During trial, they said Marcello ran football fields, and they caught him way somewhere else. Now, the reason they had to tell that lie is because Marcello is right with the car. He ran nowhere. The area where they have on the thing that he was arrested, they have the address where he was arrested. That address in the cul-de-sac is like just across the street. Like in a neighborhood, how you look at your across the street neighbors, is that close. So it's too small for him to have run. But the reason they had to lie and say he ran is because the two guys in the back, their excuse for being in this car that's evading police was that we were robbed. Look, we're innocent. We did nothing. We were just robbed. So this is where the robbery comes from. This is why they have to make this robbery a real reality. Because if it's not a robbery, what were y'all doing? You understand what I'm saying? So they had to make up the robbery. We were robbed. Marcello held a pow on us. That's why we were in the car. And how they justified the cousin, they said that the cousin, Marcello made the cousin the driver with his pow. Marcello's the head of this crime in the passenger seat. He made his cousin drive because he did not know how to drive that car. He made his cousin drive, and he held the weapon on the two guys in the back seat. That's the weapon they're charging him with. But my question, if he is in a dead-end cul-de-sac that is really small, he gets out of the car, and you're saying he had a pow on him, and now he's just across the street. What happened to said pow? Where did it go? How is it not available for actual tangible evidence? Why is it not there? That's why, to explain the reason why it's not there, because see, now you got to bring in another lie. Oh, we don't have the pow. We gave so first they lied and said they did not catch the driver. That was one lie. Then they lied and said Marcello ran. That was 2 lies. Then they lied and said there was definitely a weapon. We gave good search for it, but we can't find it. So far, that's 3 lies, major lies. And if you're right about it, why do you need to lie about it? So now that vehicle, that officer, that the BLK lady officer that told Marcello to get out, told everybody to get out the car, right? They told Marcello to come sit down by her. The 2 white tee guys, after they said they were robbed, the other car, the car that was chasing the car that Marcello was in, had 2 officers in there, which was the white tee male that was the driver of the car, and he had a ride-along, which was the Hispanic male. But the YT male was the one, that's the officer that took the sworn affidavit. So as the BLK lady has Marcello on the ground, the officer, the YT officer, when they said they were robbed, he just took their sworn statements and said, okay, you guys were robbed. How much were you robbed of? What were you robbed of? They said, hold on. They said we were robbed of $80. $80. That is what they wrote in their statements. Marcello had a weapon. He robbed us at G point, $80. Okay. Now, after he gets that sworn affidavit, they go and search Marcello, who is not football fields away. He's just outside the cul-de-sac. So the car Marcello and them was in right here, the 2 officers right behind them, and the dead-end cul-de-sac had a railroad track that goes across it. The BLK lady came around the corner and she parked in front of the railroad track. It's a very small area. So that's where she comes from. She said that she heard it on the phone. I mean, not the phone. The radio. She heard on the radio that there was basically something happening and they needed, people. So she immediately came across, cut the car off at the railroad track. But the car itself couldn't go nowhere else because they were going to drive across the railroad track. And then even if he could have gotten his car across the railroad track, which if you see the way that it's made, it's not made like a railroad track in a street. It's like up kind of like a hill and rocks, and he couldn't have drove across it. That's why he stopped that car, jumped out and ran and got caught, but they say he got away. Okay, so there was nowhere else for the car to go. And honestly, they said they chased Marcello football fields. If they had of, how would you have chased him football fields down the street? Because the street only goes this way. The cul-de-sac is circle. There's nothing but railroad tracks. And then it's the street that the lady was parked on going this way. And then there's a row of houses. So where did you chase him? Like in circles or something? Because there would be no logical way that if you chased him football fields away, and then he said he brought him back to the cul-de-sac. We caught him football fields away and brought him back to the cul-de-sac. And that's when we checked his person, and Marcello had $60 in his pocket. He did not have 80. Right? So that's a lie there. Number 4, why did you lie and have to say that you chased him? You didn't chase him because he didn't run. but you said it's football field. So you're creating more distance, making it seem like Marcello left the scene of the crime and came back. That explains away your weapon. This is where it could be believable that you gave good search, because football fields, it could be possibly a missing weapon that was present. But a small cul-de-sac, that's not logical. There's no way. That proves it to be untrue. So once they said that they checked Marcello and he only had 60 on him, the officer was like, wait, he has only 60 on him. He took those sworn affidavits and he gave them back to the two guys and told them to cross out on both, cross out 80, write in 60 and initial it. So they both crossed out 80, wrote in 60, and one put a little smiley face. They initialed and put a smiley face. So now the money's aligned. Marcello has 60 on him. He made this piece fit, right? Because it would have been, if he had took the report correctly and left it without amending it. Like, if you were going to do some sloppy work like that, I would have just given them new affidavit papers and had them rewrite their whole affidavit, not just cross it out and write in something after you searched him, right? So he has them write that in. Now we're going to go back to where the two say the money came from, because the two, they're making up a robbery to cover themselves. So it was asked, where did the money come from? Because they said Marcello at G Point in the passenger seat demanded the two give them their wallets. Give me all your money. And they said that they both gave Marcello their wallets. The two guys gave Marcello 2 wallets, and that Marcello took the 2 wallets in his hands, which means his fingerprints should be on the 2 wallets. Marcello takes their 2 wallets, he looks in them, and Marcello's like, there's no money in here. I know you have to have something. So they're in evidence, if they're correct, there should have been 2 wallets with real evidence, tangible evidence, with Marcello's fingerprints on those wallets. During trial, it was asked, you had the wallets. The state was asked, they asked the state, why did you choose not to dust the wallets for fingerprints? And they had no answer. So you surely have the robber, Marcello, and you have clear-cut evidence that he touched their wallets. He demanded their wallets. And you could have dusted them for fingerprints, but you just choose not to. That makes no sense. So then they were like, so where did the money, where did this $60 come from? And that is when one of them says, oh, I didn't have the money in my wallet. I had it in my pocket. So I had my wallet and then I had my money separate, but it wasn't even my money. It was money that I borrowed from the bartender at the club I just came from, because I didn't have any money on me. So I borrowed $80 from the bartender. So when Marcello demanded our wallets, and he just was so adamant that I had to have something, I remembered that I still had that $60 that I borrowed from the bartender. There's no case. Why didn't they go back to the club and interview the bartender? These two guys say that you lent them $60. Did you do that? If it's true, I lent them $60. Yes, I did. They never did that. They had no witnesses in the case. Another lie that was told by the officers was that there was nobody else in the parking lot. It was only Marcello and the two guys. Now remember, I told you the two guys were at this famous club about to watch a famous dance that started at midnight. This all occurred, I think it was around, I got to go back to the transcript, but this all occurred around 10 to 11-ish. So the famous dance didn't even start yet. There's no absolute way that nobody was in the parking lot because the club is just getting thick. I have drove past that club many times. Sunday was one of their biggest nights. So that's a lie that no other witnesses were out there. The parking lot was completely vacant, and and they said there was no security out there. Nobody. People had just got attacked in that club. So they were thickening up security. And that club would be packed. They used to have so many famous people come in there from all over. Like, this is a historic club. It's very historic to Orlando. So they say that there was nobody out there, no security. They said, now the club is a hotel as well. They said that the club/hotel has no security cameras in the parking lot, which I found an article about another robbery because I was researching the history of that club. And they said they found the alleged robber because they checked the parking lot surveillance. But they told us that there's no parking lot surveillance because Marcello was like, if you just pull the surveillance, you can see I was not there. And they said that the club had no surveillance. So somewhere between that incident and Marcello's incident, they put all these surveillance cameras up and they thickened up security. So they're painting the picture that it was a vacant parking lot and it's just these two guys. And then it's this thug Marcello that comes up and he demands his cousin, drives these people. Like, Marcello sits in the passenger seat and demands all of this stuff from the passenger seat because he doesn't know how to drive this vehicle. And he demands their wallets. He goes and drives off. And that's where he's by that stop sign that gets rolled, and then the cops get behind him, right? So back to the wallets. The two said that Marcello demanded their wallets. The prosecutor just chose, hey, I, for whatever reason, don't want to dust the wallets and find Marcello's fingerprints because I don't want any real evidence. I don't want to turn in the GUN that he used that should have had his fingerprints all over it. If it was there, I don't want to turn in the dusted wallets. So I'm basically going to try a case without any evidence. And I don't want to turn in surveillance because we also asked for surveillance at the 7-Eleven to prove Marcello was there. We asked for 2 surveillance, the club surveillance to prove he was not there, and the 7-Eleven surveillance to prove that that was his location. That's where he just left there. So he couldn't have been at the 7-Eleven and just coming from the club at the same time. There's no way he could have walked that fast, that far. There was no way. We were told no on both. We were told that we couldn't get 7-Eleven's surveillance, and we were told that the club had no surveillance, which was, what are we up to, 4 or 5 lies right there? Because that club very well did have surveillance. And now what's crazy and ironic, the club is demolished. I have searched far and wide on the internet to find old pictures of this club because I wanted a picture showing the surveillance cameras. But it's so hard. I went through finding pictures, but you can't really see the whole parking lot like that because I want to get close enough on the building to prove, see here, there was surveillance. Why were we not given the surveillance? But common sense is going to tell you they had surveillance because they're liable if anything happens to people on their property. And when people were attacking their patrons on their property, why would you just choose to not have surveillance? That makes zero sense. So back to the wallet. When the car stopped, the wallet, the one guy had his wallet in his pocket. So how did Marcello have his wallet, look around in it, and then give him his wallet and he had it back in his pocket? Because they said Marcello took the wallets and kept them. He had the wallets on him. Okay, other wallet, they said that it was found on the floor. Now listen to this. They said it was found on the floor ground. And they was like, okay, what's a floor ground? They said it was found on the ground. So what they were saying was basically when Marcello got up and out of the car, he dropped the wallet on the ground. That was what they alleged. But from the sworn affidavit, the officer said he found the wallet on the floorboard of the car. But previous to Marcello getting in the car, that guy, one of the guys from the back, were sitting up here in the front. He could have dropped his own wallet because he was previously sitting there. And imagine you switching seats real quick. You would drop your wallet. You could drop your wallet. But also, why this imaginary money? If my bartender friend, I don't know, no friends that's finna lend me $80 back in 2001. $80 was a large amount of money in 2001. But my bartender friend loans me $80, right? I just walk out of the club and instantly I'm robbed of my $80, right? My 80, I mean $60. Doesn't make sense as to why he didn't put that imaginary money into his wallet, right? That makes more sense. I'm borrowing imaginary money from my bartender friend. I'm going to put it in my wallet. Why would I have a wallet and then have money separate? Right? It's not quite adding up. And then Marcello surely had the wallets because the good law-abiding, upstanding officers and the two guys said he had it. So why would you choose to not dust the wallets? And surely, because you're not lying, so you're definitely going to find Marcello's fingerprints on those wallets. Why did you fail to do that? So the way I really think that it was supposed to be handled, the officer, they couldn't catch the driver, lie, but okay, you can't catch the driver. You should have arrested all 3 people in the car until we find out what happened. Those two in the back should have been arrested too. But the way it played out was that Marcello was arrested, and the cousin, the YT cousin, ran and got away, so he's gone forever, never brought up on nothing, and they never called him nothing, just gone, dismissed. And the two guys went back to the club. They went right back to the club that they were allegedly robbed and taken away from the club. They went back to that club. As soon as the officers cleared out, was done, Marcello's gone for 40 years, they returned back to that club. But if the club was vacant, nobody there, why would you return back to the club? They said because they had to get a drink because they were so shaken up. But the reason you return back to that club is because the initial reason of you being at the club was because you wanted to see that dance, and that dance didn't start yet. So you made it back in time for the dance, which proves that parking lot would not have been, there's no way. There had to have, if Marcello did this, he would have had to do it in front of a whole packed crowd of cars. If Marcello came up and robbed them as they were walking to their cars, and then made, because that's what they said, Marcello walked up to them, they just got in their car, and nobody's around to view this. There's no security, there's no cameras, there's nothing around. The police coming from the street in front of them say that he seen the car that Marcello was in come out that parking lot, right? Which is the sixth lie, because from straight you cannot see that club, because the road actually does this and then goes straight, and when it curves like this, it's a row of trees. So when you're at the vantage point that the officer say he's seen the car that Marcello was in come out, you can't see nothing but a row of trees. I recorded that as well. I sat at that point, at that exact point that the officer said he seen Marcello come out the drive out the parking lot, well, from the passenger seat. I sat at that corner, and number one, the distance is too far to see with the natural eye. Number two, it is a curve. It goes this way, that, and then picks up straight. You ever been in a street like that where it doesn't completely go straight? The stop sign, it goes this way and then continues. It's obstructing your view, and it was nighttime. So he's seen through objects. He's seen through a row of trees. He's seen a very, very, very far distance, and he's seen at nighttime clearly that it was Marcello coming in out of this vehicle. So how many lies are we up to now? Okay, so here we go. Those are the lies of that one officer, right? Well, there's more because you have to go back to the transcripts, right? The BLK lady officer. So now they're asking, so what happened to the driver? Because that's the obvious question you have from this. Like, they said that they had helicopters in the sky. They had dogs chasing that second suspect. And they had patrol on the ground. Remember the Hispanic male? They had two. It was the YT male and the Hispanic male. So while the YT male is taking the YT guy's statement in the back, the Hispanic male is chasing Marcello's YT cousin, but he can't catch him, and the dog can't catch him. and the helicopters never seen him, and never again, never, that's it. They took it to trial with always, and even the jury was like, so where's the driver? But they never filled that hole. Where is the driver? Because that is who actually should have all the charges. And Marcello, if you're going to charge him, should only be charged as an accomplice. But they had to figure a way, because we're missing the driver. How can we make Marcello the head of this crime? Because he's all we have is Marcello. So when they asked, can you describe Marcello? Yes, he's a BLK guy with dreads. He's this high, he's this, he's that. That's him. They ask, can you point him out? They point him out. That's him right there. All right. Can you describe the driver? He's shorter, he's taller, he's bigger, he's smaller, he's this, he's that. I don't know. I didn't get a good look at him. That's what they kept saying. Everybody, the 3 officers and the 2 guys in the car with him driving, they all say, we never got a good look at him. They just kept saying, they made him like this vague BLK male. That's all they kept referring to them during the trial, except for one of the guys referred to them as 2 colored guys. He said 2 colored guys. The other one was saying 2 BLK guys. And then when they asked to describe the driver, they all was like, well, we can't give no description. We don't know what he looks like. He was just a BLK guy. But remember, he doesn't look BLK in the least bit, especially if a crime in the moment is happening. He don't even look BLK. I would have said a YT guy. I never would have described him. If you see him, y'all would never describe him as a BLK guy. Think about Tom Joyner, if you know who Tom Joyner is, or the pellest of the pellest BLK person you could think of, maybe Sinbad, or who else? Because even back in the day, we had BLK people that passed for YT people, and they lived their lives as YT people so that they can be treated better. That is how pale the driver is. So why do you you delete him, take him out of the picture, and then you only refer to him as a BLK guy, a random BLK guy that you would never see and think he was BLK. If you would mistake him for anything, I promise only mistake I would make, I would think he's Hispanic. But he's still so pale. He does not look African American at all. So the BLK officer, the lady that had Marcello on the ground, she said that, because they were saying, well, y'all didn't try to catch him. Y'all couldn't catch him. Y'all didn't get no look at him. She had said that she said, hey. Now this is where she was lying, because she lied and said, because everybody was trying to say Marcello ran. Because you have to say he ran, because it makes no sense if he did not run. So she was saying he ran, and they were chasing both of them. And they said that Marcello stopped running, and the cousin continued to run. The other BLK guy continued to just run, and he got away. Okay, so they were saying that the lady said, I said, hey. And they both turned around and looked at me. And they brought that back up to her. And it was like, wait. You said they both looked at you, so you didn't get a look at him then? And she was like, oh, no, I didn't get a good look at his face. She didn't realize that she got caught. They all kept saying they could not describe him at all. But no matter what angle I seen this guy from, I would never say a BLK guy. But that's the image they painted to the jury, that 2 BLK guys were robbing 2 YT guys, but we happened to only catch 1. So we're missing a suspect, we're missing fingerprints, we're missing a weapon, but we need to charge him. because if Marcello was not stopped, these two guys would be DEAD, is what they kept saying. They would be DEAD. So she kept going back and forth. And then I believe it was the Hispanic male that said he did not run. I could go back to the transcript and read you their different accounts, but I'm trying to remember off my head. But I believe he said he did not run. Marcello didn't run. The BLK lady and the YT male both said he ran. But even the distances, one said he just ran a little bit and he stopped. When she said, hey, he stopped, and the other one looked around at her. She didn't get a good look at him, and then he just continued to run, and that was it. He was free from this, right? So it's not really making too much of sense. So now I'm going to tell you why the cousin ran. The cousin just got bonded out a couple days prior. He was just out on bond. Because any other reason, you would have pulled over. But you're out on bond. And you're evading getting pulled over by the police. That is why the cousin ran like that and evaded the police. So the two YT guys go back to the club and they watch the dance. Marcello goes off to prison and the cousin is cleared because he's never caught. That is the three officers, a Hispanic male, a YT male, and a BLK woman, that all aligned with, no matter what, we got to make sure that this sticks, even if our stories conflict. And I'm going to tell you, just to let you know, in the future from that, I believe this happened in 2001. I believe it was 2007, that same officer that had did the sworn affidavits and amended them and did all this other random stuff. He and four other officers had this story that it was a suspect. He was in a vehicle. He was evading them. He crashed a vehicle. They said he robbed someplace. He crashed a vehicle and then he got out on foot and was running. And they pawed him and he hit the ground. And he fell in a retention, like a ditch, you know, where it rains and the water goes to the ditch. He fell in there. And instead of them just arresting him, they said somehow he was in that ditch and he got his hand up to still pow at them. So they pawed him 50 more times. And when they were asked, hold on, that's over KILL. You did not have to do that because you had the suspect on the ground. Why did you delete him? Him and the four other officers had different stories. Their stories didn't align at all. There was a lawsuit. The suspect's mother took out a lawsuit against them. And I do believe she won. But I can't find can't find nothing more on it. Because I want to, it's so much. Yeah. So it's basically the same story from Marcello's case to that guy's case. So that makes me think, was that guy guilty as well? Was he innocent? We don't know. All we know is that this officer is not doing things by the way it's supposed to be done. He's doing what he wants to. And then when it doesn't work out, we just all have different stories. Then I found where there was a suit against them for female officers, because female officers were being oh God, I don't even know how to say it to be, but yeah, so many times the female officers did not speak up when they seen wrong things happening. They did not speak up because they basically did not have the voice to be able to speak up, to report and things like that. So in my heart of hearts, I believe that BLK female officer wanted to do the right thing, but she really felt pressured to having to go along. The Hispanic male, most of his statement is true except for the fact the guy getting away, and also saying that no, because he said Marcello didn't run. So his was like the truest statement, basically. And when they were cross-examined, they caught all of that. They was like, okay, so there's no way, if he was right there with the railroad tracks, it's safe to say he never ran. And that's where they concluded that it had to be the truth that he did not run, which it was the truth. So why were they trying to make it seem as though Marcello ran? And if Marcello is so guilty, you had all the pieces to prove his guilt. Why did you take them out of the case? Why are they missing from the case? Because it surely proves that Marcello's guilty. You would bring them to court. And then the two guys, when they were asked on everything, they had different scenarios. Because they asked, hold on, you had your own wallet. How did you get your own wallet if Marcello surely had it? They had different stories about that. So none of it cohesively aligns. It's not making any sense. Now I'm going to tell you what do make sense. The story of the two being taken by the cousin into the hood to go get right. There go my cuz, I'm about to take them to the hood to get right. You want to ride? Marcello, nah, just drop me off home right there and y'all go do whatever y'all gonna do. And the cops pull them over before they're able to do whatever they were gonna do and get dropped back off at the club. Get taken back to the club. That all of the evidence aligns more with that. It all aligns more with that. This robbery stuff, you don't have the pieces of the robbery. And then even the judge was like, you can't charge him with robbery. I'm sorry. The money's not the same. It doesn't align. You're not going to charge him with robbery. And the state went on to say, but he was trying to rob him. He tried. And the judge said, okay, you can pick it up as attempted robbery. But they never amended it because they stacked charges, right? The rest of Marcello's charges can only be stacked on robbery. So it was a two-part. You have to prove the robbery first, and then you can add the other charges, and then you can add the enhancement of the weapon. This is how they multiplied Marcello's case up, right? But they did not prove the robbery. Remember, the judge said you cannot charge him with robbery, and I can show you where it's in his transcript. But when you look at Marcello's charges, there were 2 counts of robbery, armed robbery. And at that time, they had sentencing statute 1020 life. So they were trying to get weapons on everything. They had billboards. I remember when they rolled this out like it was yesterday. Billboards were everywhere. 1020 life. I even made a poem about it, girl. It was everywhere. So they were trying to attach weapons to crimes so that they could give more time. And that rhymed and I wasn't even trying. But they were trying to attach weapons to crimes so they can escalate it up. They were very zealous about that. So because it's the two guys saying they were robbed, you get a count for each guy, right? So the judge says, you can't charge him with robbery. The money ain't the same. They were supposed to drop 2 charges of robbery and pick them up as attempted robbery because the state had, I guess, convinced the judge to, okay, you could charge him as attempted. But they never, on his record, changed both of them to attempted robbery. They kept one robbery. And the reason they had to keep the robbery, though the judge said you can't charge them with robbery, they still kept one count because you cannot stack the other charges on attempted. You have to first prove the robbery. And they did not and could not prove the robbery. But though they could not prove the robbery, they still left the charge as robbery so that they can stack it. You understand what I'm trying to say? They were supposed to amend it, both charges, to attempted, because they never proved any money was taken from the two. They really shouldn't have been charging him with attempted either. But like I always say, if you're going to wrongfully incarcerate someone, make sure the case is correctly done, right? You know what I'm trying to say? Like, so they kept one count of robbery, though they should have dropped it. And that's what they were able to stack the weapon on. And that's what they were able to stack the other charges on. So it's just so much. It's been so long trying to tell this whole story because there's so many ins and outs. It's so many things that don't make sense. I know they're lying in so many different places. And then they had a witness that we asked to be called to court. And this person, they told us they were not a credible witness. They called no witnesses on Marcello's behalf. And the only witness the state had was the 2 guys. That was it. They were the witness/victims. And they greatly opposed. And when I study wrongful convictions, they say the worst statements are from the victims because they have a heightened adrenaline. Many times there's so many cases of wrongful conviction where the victim themselves pointed out the wrong person. And then they come back through DNA and realize that wasn't even the person. They say a victim's eyewitness is worse than if someone was bystanding and seen it. You could believe their account more than you could the victim, allegedly. Because they say the victim really don't be knowing like that. Because it's too much going on. They're in fear. They don't understand this. They don't understand that. They you know what I'm saying? So that was the only witnesses. None on Marcello's behalf. But we asked for this person to be called to court as a witness. And they told Marcello she's not a credible witness. She cannot be called to court. But once Marcello was convicted, I was given a paper by Marcello's public defender that said, here's something that also helped get him convicted. And it was a sworn affidavit filled out by the person that we asked to be put on the witness stand. They said she wasn't credible enough to get on a witness stand, but they still took her sworn affidavit. So how are you credible enough to give a sworn affidavit, but you're not credible enough to be on a witness stand? But this said evidence was never presented to the jury. It was never presented during trial because I was in trial. They're not supposed to present anything to that jury that is not presented out in front of the court in the open. So how was this paper that you're giving us after he's convicted, how was that something that also helped? And that statement conflicts because that person in that statement said that they were with Marcello, and Marcello confessed to them that he was about to go commit a robbery. That statement is in no way true because at the same exact time, Marcello was with me. Marcello can't be in two places at one time. I know they say he a criminal, but he hasn't mastered that. He can't be in two places. And we asked that that person be put on the stand to be cross-examined, to be examined and cross-examined. And they said they're not credible, but you took their statement, did not put it in court, jury didn't see it, and that means I should have been called to court. There was no witnesses presented on Marcello's side. And all you had was the two guys that basically are trying to cover themselves. So after they returned back to the club, they seen the famous dance and they went on, they ignored everything. They did not want to come to court. They sent out 3 subpoenas. Guys, these people, these two just robbed you. You thought you were going to be unalived. You got to come to court. You got to come to court because there's nobody to press the charges against Marcello. You have to come to court. These two, when trial came, Marcello's lawyer comes up and says, "Oh my gosh, Judge, I just found out